Terem. Terem.
Hi folks, Scott from Terem here. Today I want to talk about the principles of a product-led approach. What I want to do is get down to fundamentals, go right down to the basic level, the first principles of what a product-led approach looks like. The reason why I want to do this is because it's so easy to get caught up in a new fad, a new kind of like process, or even the detail of a process, like are we applying the right bits of Scrum, or we're Agile, or we're not using Agile, or there's so many different reasons where you can get stuck, or we're using microservices. Or, what I want to do is just talk about fundamental level, the approach and the principles. So let's get into what the principles are. And when I talk about the principles, I'm really talking about approach. There's more to it. You can think about organization, you can think about culture, all that. I really just want to think about how a team or an organization or business goes about approaching their work, their development. So let's look at the 4 principles of a product-led approach. They are: number 1, looking from the outside in; number 2, a rapid early release; number 3, maturing through iteration; and number 4, disciplined prioritization. Now, let's go through and talk about each of these in detail. Let's look at the first principle, thinking from the outside in. So when you're thinking from the outside in, it means thinking from the customer's perspective, thinking from outside the building, looking in, from outside your business, looking in. This can be everything from customer, market, partners, whoever it might be, taking their perspective on whatever it is you're doing or thinking about doing. Now, often, especially technical solution-oriented folks, will be drawn towards inside-out thinking, where you start with your problem as a business, or the solution that you would love to have, or the constraints that you have as a business, and you start from that position and you design outwards, and then you kind of push something on your customers or the market. This is a huge trap. It happens all the time with technical teams. I'm guilty of it myself. And it also happens with businesses. They think, we need to increase revenue. How could we increase revenue? All right, we'll go do X, Y, Z and kind of push it on our customer, versus starting outside the building and thinking, what does our customer want from us? What more can we do from our customer? And also importantly, what's going on in the market? So it's another outside-in perspective. What's happening in the market? What are our competitors doing? What are the trends? Where are things going? This is kind of the basis of outside-in thinking. So that's kind of number 1. It's very high level. Does the team, does the business, do we want to approach things from the outside in? Next one is rapid early releases. This is kind of your minimum viable product, or MVP, getting a beta out, getting something into people's hands, even if it's not the product you're shipping, releasing things that someone can interact with. I'm a big fan of observed behavioral data, empirical information. So seeing how someone interacts with something, whether it's buying, using, whatever that might be, is so much more useful than listening to feedback or interview results or anything like that. So finding ways to release something, could be a landing page, could be a real product. Finding ways to release early and rapidly is one of the other keys of a product-led approach. All right, let's look at the next one, which is maturing through iteration. So once you have something out there, the key to a product-led approach, you've got your product out there, is maturing it through iteration. And maturing through iteration is where you start to bring in some of the kind of heavier processes, I suppose, or tools. It's where you might look to do less scrappy stuff. It's where you're going to start really looking at security, for instance. It's where you're really going to start looking at, for some businesses, where privacy really comes in. It's where you're going to start looking at data integrity. There's a lot that's going to start coming in, like disaster recovery, all that kind of thing. I think a big issue that a lot of teams, businesses have, is that they kind of confuse rapid early release and outside-in thinking with this maturing through iteration step. Remembering that not everything kind of under a product-led approach starts with everything there. So the maturing through iteration is where you want to push all of your more complex requirements thinking, standards, best practices, more heavy processes like safe, scaled agile. That's where you want to be dealing with all of that. And helping people understand that, yeah, we're going to deal with XYZ security, and this is maybe a dangerous one, but like, we're going to deal with that by iterating through it over here. Or we're going to make the service more valuable to our customers through maturing and through iteration. Good user experience is another great example that gets matured through iteration. It's so hard to release something and have people love it on day one. It's through iteration that you're going to get there. The mature through iteration is a really key part of a product-led approach. The fourth point, disciplined prioritization. So this principle of taking disciplined prioritization to how we approach building, developing, shipping, thinking about products is so crucial. And it's crucial because you're only, no matter how big you are, no matter how well resourced you are, how small you are, you're always constrained. And you've got to think about where is the best place for us to be investing our energy, time, efforts. And this is where disciplined prioritization comes in. Really focusing on what is it that we're going to do next, what's valuable, why is it valuable, is it a strategic fit for us, does it get us to where we want to go. It's balancing also with what a customer might want, with what the market's doing, what your solution can do, what you think your customer needs, which may or may not be what they always say they want. So this disciplined prioritization step, really important as well. These are the four principles of a product-led approach. They really help you get down to debugging process issues, technology issues, product issues. You can kind of ask yourself, are you and your team meeting some of these principles? And if you're struggling with why something that someone's asking you to do, or why a process that's being introduced, or why something needs to wait till later in a cycle, if you're kind of struggling with something and you've got an intuition about why that bit of the process or why this requirement doesn't make sense yet, for me anyway, I've found getting back to these fundamentals around the four principles of product-led development really helps explain why some things don't fit, why some processes don't fit, why we don't need to apply a scaled agile framework just yet. We're actually in the rapid early release phase. Let's just get something out. We don't need a full increment in our program to get through it. Or we don't need a full project spun up. We just want to get a prototype out. We don't need all the security boxes checked yet because we're only releasing it to 5 people who are our friends that we're going to invite, and they're going to be signing NDAs or something like that. There's a lot of different kind of problems that these principles, these fundamentals can help you with. And I think often just bringing things back to a fundamental discussion, getting on the same page about the fundamentals will help you address some of the more detailed problems. But without the fundamentals, you can have a bit of trouble, I think this process, I think that, I think this, I think that. So hopefully this helps. Thank you so much for having me. If you loved the video, please subscribe. There's plenty more, and look forward to chatting with you next time.